Hello and welcome to the World F3 Championship live on Apex Racing TV. I'm Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is Tyler Vickery with Sam Kumo on the cameras this evening. We're here in at Road America in Wisconsin, and should be a fantastic evening of racing. Two races this evening, two 30-minute events, and so far this season, Tyler, this championship has been super competitive. Some big names in this, but it has been Peter Bayman who has been able to establish a championship lead, and he's certainly the man to beat out there.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely the big man to beat. He's locked up 5 of the 6 wins right now. With that only win that he did not get was in the first race of the season at Spa, when we had a big massive melee that collected a few top name cars, and Peter Berryman was one of those.
Yeah, it was Kevin S. Sorry, no, it wasn't Kevin S. Jr. It was Marco Mogren taking the race victory on that occasion. But apart from that, it has been all about Peter Bayman. But around this Road America circuit, maybe a few contrasting setups out there. Tyler, we've already discussed it a little bit off air, how maybe some drivers are taking slightly lower downforce setup approach. It's something that you can do around this circuit, and you'd expect it to be the norm because we've got such long straights, but that middle part of the track where you really need a lot of downforce and a lot of stability, clearly that is maybe swaying the drivers one way or another.
Yeah, definitely. And with if mainly from when I was watching, like a lot of the Apex racing team, all 3 of those drivers are running with low downforce, which is definitely something different compared to everyone else that are running either the medium downforce package or a high downforce package, because everyone's worried about that carousel, and that carousel is one of the fastest corners of Road America, and then it'll make or break a race for you, especially even if you just make one little mistake. And with some of these cars, especially the Formula 3s, where you can practically go flat out if you have the setup just right, that's going to be a big difference there when it comes to lap times and the pace. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers can be able to adapt to the carousel and we'll definitely see who's got the better setup in the end.
Yeah, definitely should be fascinating to watch. Of course, you can kind of roughly see the downforce levels of the drivers by their rear wing, how skinny it is. Of course, the skinnier the wing, the lower downforce. I don't really need to tell you that. And the drivers just playing in their lap times at the moment, about halfway through qualifiers. Looking like an interesting grid at the moment. We'll go back to it in a few moments' time when maybe a few more times come in. But in the championship, like I've already said, Peter Bayman leading the ways. 50 points clear of Conan Junior Ellis's first non-second position came in race 2 at Interlagos, and that's kind of set him back a little bit. It's Ilping in third. He's having a ding-dong battle with Alex Simpson. Those two have been neck and neck so far this season. Fantastic to watch them race amongst each other. And then behind that is Christian Rose, it's an expertise in the World GT Championship, of course, in 5th position. Nicholas Rasmussen in 6th. Next, Namela Mogren and Brandon and Gregory rounding out the top 10. A lot of quick drivers, not even in the top 10 at the moment. For example, Nicole Foggy, quite far down the order. He did miss a round, but it just shows the competitiveness of this field. Currently, Matt Bunn, just showing that more competitiveness. Matt Bunn is in the last position of drivers who have set a time so far. Maybe struggling a little bit out there is the Englishman, and trying to do whatever he can to improve, almost losing the car through the penultimate corner, and now approaching the final corner, but again he's desperately wide and picks up a 1x, and that's the end of his lap. And it's a long lap round here, isn't it, Tyler? Your chances of hooking up an entire lap for 2 minutes, even though we've got 15 minutes to set a lap, it's very difficult to hook up that one perfect lap.
Yeah, definitely. And I was doing some practice laps as well for myself, and seeing these guys hitting the 55s and 56s are just incredible. As I was trying to run some hot laps as well, with just even the baseline setup and making little modifications here and there. My quickest lap time was only 2-minute lap time. So even if you can just compare to that with a 15-minute qualifying and having low fuel does not really give you a lot of time to get those good quality laps in. You have to make them while you can and get them in, and just hope for the best.
Yeah, definitely. Marco Namella has shown a lot of pace so far this season. Hasn't been able to necessarily convert to him, and Marco Mogren in particular. Just making a few too many mistakes, and well, they are certainly dark horses, of course. Mogren already a race winner so far this season. Oh, I said that we'd go to the grid. I'm sure you got it on the side of your, or you've been given an idea of the standing so far. But it is Brian Locker currently leading the way. He got 2 podiums at his debut at Interlagos last week, and he's currently over half a second clear of Kane Halliburton. Great to see Kane in this series, of course, fighting for the BSR Radical Series. That'll be on tomorrow evening, the penultimate round of that. And no surprise that he's right up at the front. Peter Bayman, the top of the Apex drives, but only in third position. Maybe that lower downforce setup, Tyler, is maybe going against these Apex drives, because after locking out usually the top 3 rows on the grid, currently they are third, sixth, and seventh.
Yeah, and I wonder if it might be the not having the best run. I mean, looking at the lap times, I mean they are pretty close, but and Bierman actually has now dropped to fourth. Still some very shocking times though, seeing Brian Lockwood and Kane Halliburton, the only two in the 55s. I know Kevin Ellis was able to run a 1 minute 55 at practice. So unless the tracks change that much that it's hurting Kevin Ellis and a few other drivers, it's going to be real interesting to see how this plays out.
Definitely. The check temperature, 31 degrees, so not too bad. It can get a lot warmer than that, but usually we see in this series not incredibly hot temperatures, usually just on the slightly warm side. It is 10:45 in the morning in Sim. So, yeah, not too bad for these drivers. Nicholas Rasmussen, great to see him back out there in 8th position currently. He is over 1 second off the fast time as we head into the final 2 minutes or so. And even once, this is possibly the least important qualifying session of the season. I'm not sure if we go to Monza actually at some point in the championship, but maybe that circuit and here as well. Even if you are starting on the second road grid, overtakes are going to be possible. You can really get into the slipstream and pull off some moves around a lot of different corners around here.
Yeah, definitely, and especially with some of the straight line speeds here. That's where I'm going to be expecting the Apex guys to really take advantage of the long straights with having that lower downforce package, and especially like the long straights here at the start finish line. I expect the Apex Racing guys to definitely start having some decent runs and on the long straights and be able to make some clean overtakes on the long.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, you have got to think twice, and you can see how skinny that rear wing is, even skinnier than what they had at Spa, and there was quite a variation there, proved absolutely important. And that was maybe Apex Racing's least dominant performance so far this season at Spa. So maybe they're not quite comfortable with that downforce. So, but now Pete Spayman does put it back up into third position. He's only 3/10 of a second off the fastest time. But this is going to be his last lap. He hasn't got a lot of time. 1 minute to go in the session. Of course, unlike the official series, these drivers in this league session can complete their lap times once they've started it. Even if this qualifying runs out straight after you start your lap, you are allowed to complete it. And Peter Bowman will be quite pleased about that, I imagine, because it gives him a chance at getting back onto the front row of the grid. Kevin S. Jr. now approaching the line. What can Peter's teammate do? He only needs to improve by a couple of tenths to go up to fourth position. But that time he cannot improve. A few hundredths slower than his personal best time, and maybe leaves him even susceptible to losing a position to Simpson, Rasmussen, or Witterbols behind. Now, Mella also crossed the line. He's in 5th position, just starting his final lap, just about crosses the line in time. This could be a dangerous lap from him. Christian Rowe is currently on the outskirts of the top 10, the car number 5. Of course, one of the leaders in the World GT Championship. He's going to be the first one to complete his final lap. Christian Reyes approaches the line, currently P10, as he crosses the line now, and he moves up into 7th position ahead of Alex Simpson. Great effort.
Yeah, and had a really good sector times as well, and definitely beat out Simpson by 1/10 of a second. But Simpson's still on track, and he's getting ready to finish up his lap as well. So we'll see what happens here with jumps up to 6th.
Yeah, ahead of his teammate Kevin SG. I think that's the first time since Simpson has outqualified one of his teammates. Now Halliburton, can he put it on pole position? Currently on the front row of the grid. Can he improve on that one? No, and he was only 1/100th of a second off, 13 1/1000ths off. Super close qualifying. Kane Halliburton just drops a little bit short, but a very impressive performance considering that this is his first day of the season. Rasmussen also improves, only by a couple of hundreds. It doesn't move him up a position, still in 9th, and I think that's pretty much everyone across the line. Yeah, Lockwood and Halliburton now completed their lap times, and we'll just wait for the clock to tick down. And great to see a bit of a mix-up with the grid out there, as we can now go through it. Brian Lockwood on pole position, only his second meeting of the season, but that has not stopped him from setting a blistering lap time. 1/100th faster than Kane Halliburton in second. Peter Bayman for the first time not on pole position in race 1 of the evening. In third, Paul Ilbrink starts in 4th. He's been Mr. Consistent so far this season and very much on the pace there. Marco Nomella ahead of Alex Simpson and Kevin Ellis Jr. Christian Ray starts in 8th with Nicholas Rasmussen in 9th. Davey Witzer in his first race of the season starts in 10th. Then behind that is William Daniels, Steve Lavelli, Trevor Clement, Miles Clotesley, Danny Henney, Matt Bunn, and Joshua Andrew. The drivers who didn't set qualifying times were McFadden, O'Connor, Rayfield. Hopefully those drivers will take to the grid. Of course, great to see a little bit of variation in the grid today, Tyler. No Peter Bayman on the front row of the grid. It really does mix up this one. It's impossible to call which way this is going to go.
Yeah, I think so as well. Especially seeing Alex Simpson and Kevin Ellis further down as well. Definitely a surprise with seeing Lockwood and Halliburton being able to keep Apex out from locking out the front row. So going to be a big shakeup with this race. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays.
Of course, this will be round 7 of the championship, meeting 4 of the season. And should be one of the most competitive races of the season. We saw a fantastic race 2 at Spa. Could this rival it? Brian Lockwood for the Racing Network. Pole position here at Road America. And away we go. Halliburton with a pretty strong start. He's going to be challenging him going into turn 1. Bayman picking up the slipstream just behind, and he might be able to pick up into 2nd position. They might be side by side going into turn 1, trying to go down the inside there as Bayman, but the track's just not wide enough. And going ahead into turn 1 is Brian Lockwood, side by side just behind there, side by side all the way down the field seemingly. Fantastic racing, but not too much contact so far it appears. A little bit slow there, and going round is Marco Nomella. He starts in 5th position. He's way down the order now. And that was contact, I believe, with Alex Simpson.
Yeah, I want to say it was Alex Simpson. Oh, another big wreck. Wow, that was big hit by Matt Bunn. That car is destroyed.
Yeah, he does get a fast repair, but that one looking like a bit of a Formula Ford at the moment. Will have to be fast repaired into the pits. Oh, and there is that spinner for Ellis Jr. Oh no, it's Simpson, sorry. So Simpson falls down the order, and he's going to fall behind Christian Rose, I believe, but no, just sweeping around the outside. That's nice defense there from Alex Simpson. As actually coming under pressure now is Rosen, maybe going down the inside as well of Simpson. That was Rasmussen. Witterball's just making up a couple of positions. He's had a good start out there. But out in the lead, Lockwood already a second clear of the rest of the field.
Yeah, we also have to say one thing though for Davey Whittleball. Heard reports earlier from him saying that he's been suffering a flu, so not really good start. Woo! As someone went wide out there, I believe it's Lane O'Connor. No, it wasn't Lane O'Connor. There's a car that flew way off track there, but we got this really good battle here. And that would be Michael Coletti getting around Steve Lavelli in a very technical corner there, especially after coming from a long.
Side by side just ahead, Simpson, Rose and Witterbolt. I believe Simpson's got scampered off ahead, and it's going to be really close down here. That's Trevor Clement as well getting involved. Daniels as well, as they go three wide down the pit straight. You got the concrete wall on the inside. Clement trying to get the slipstream as he gets gifted the slipstream factors. It's going to be really close, moving across in the braking zone perhaps. And Rose is going to lose out here after trying to get past Simpson for 7th position earlier on. He's fallen all the way down into 11th, and that's not due to damage, not due to pace, just getting shuffled down a little bit. Really unfortunate for him as they all start the slipstream again. Daniel's going to be right on the tail of Witterbolt down here as he goes to the outside. Just pulling ahead now, and this is always very difficult to call going into turn 5, but round the outside there from Will Dunn's great confidence on the brakes.
And Clement almost got into Whittleballs, just trying to check up enough to give him plenty of room. It was close.
Lockwood just pulling ahead out in the lead, 1.5 seconds clear of the rest of the field. He's broken the draft crucially. Peter Bayman trying to stay in touch, but you could almost say that this might be a game over already for Peter Bayman, because if he hasn't got the pace advantage, then if he hasn't got the slipstream, he's going to really struggle to mount an attack. Halliburton in the slipstream, he looks really strong right now, does Kane, as he hasn't quite been able to forge a move yet. And so you see the rear wing differential between these two drivers. Alex Simpson, Peter Bayman with the much skinnier rear wing, and that's going to help him down the straights. And Halliburton currently suffering from that. He just cannot get the overtake.
Yeah, and looking at the sector times right now, Peter Berriman's running in quick lap times right now. They're coming to the line. Here we go. As Lockwood now runs a 1 minute and 56.3. Peter Berryman at 156.7 and Halliburton at 156.7. So already Brian Lockwood gaining 0.4 of a second on these two.
Yeah, you can see down that straight, partly partly due to Bayman kind of swerving around down the straight. Halliburton just couldn't gain, but now he's really deep in the slipstream, and Halliburton might just have a chance. Is he gaining on his rival? Barely, but no, just edging closer as they raise the speed here at Road America through 3 and 4, and now going into 5. He looks to the outside, does Kane Halliburton. There's not enough room, but he makes enough room, and he's going to be a long way off the circuit, and he's going to have to give up on that attack. And, well, that's the difficulty of Kane Halliburton's efforts at getting up into 2nd position.
Now, it was a good attempt by Kane, but Peter Berryman gave him just that enough room that he had to go for it. Ooh, is Alex Simpson's having more issues?
He's not liking that corner, dropped a few positions at that corner in lap 1. And once again, turn 6 as he has fallen victim to just too much curb on the inside. Got on the grass and lost it on the exit. Did well to get out of the path of the other drivers.
Yeah, just really struggled in that corner. It's a very tricky one, as we got some side by side in the carousel battle, as I saw there. They're looking towards Ilbring, trying to get around Kevin Ellis Jr. now.
I think Ilbring lost that position on the last lap, but now trying to come back at him. Seems to be happy to stay in the slipstream, but of course, once again, Ellis with the much lower downforce, really difficult to overtake him. As Ilbrink is finding, but he's so close. As we see a big contact. Trevor Clement, he was having a nice run, and there's been Danny Henney and Steve Lavelli, I believe, involved in a crash.
And that is heavy damage for Steve Lavelli, and that car is crapping already. Boy, what happened here? Oh,
wow, they've all had independent issues.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
My. That was... I don't know who that was. I want to say that might have been Miles Coletzi ramping off a Trevor Clement there, I think. boy, oh boy.
We've seen so far this season how many incidents can occur. This is Stephen Bailey then battling with Alex Simpson, of course, recovering some positions. They make contact with one another, and Lavelli goes round. He involves, what,
Wow.
4 drivers, I believe, in that incident. Not due to Lavelli's fault. He couldn't really do anything in that situation. But yeah, really unfortunate. So Christian Reyes 6 seconds behind Nicholas Rasmussen. Certainly the top 6 is maybe a group, although it's quite a strung out group at the moment. And then you've got these two pretty much in a battle of their own, Rose and Witterballs. Rose, of course, dropped down to 11th on lap 2, but just due to the instance of the other drivers, been able to move up into P7. Of course, Christian with plenty of experience in the World GT Championship, and I believe in a couple of the BSR leagues, knows how to just accumulate the points, get consistent results. And that's why he's currently in 5th position in the championship, but he is suffering from David Witterballs just behind.
Yeah, looking at the lap times right now. Seems like Witterbolts is running just a little bit closer, a little bit quicker than Christian Rose. They both ran their personal best with a 158.3, but Witterbolts had the time by 200ths of a second, and he should have an opportunity to make a pass here in the long straight with the draft behind Christian.
Yeah, gaining much faster than what than what Halliburton was able to do earlier on. These two running similar downforce trims. But Witterballs just staying behind. Talking of Bayman, he is still in 2nd position, and he's actually 8/10 of a second ahead of Kane Halliburton. So he's been able to kind of maintain that gap. Was a 10th faster than his rival on the last lap, with Kevin S. Jr. Just establishing that 4th position, although Paul Ilbrink is looking very quick in 5th. This could start turning into a bit of a 4-way battle for the podium positions, with Nicholas Rasmussen doing everything he can to stay in touch, but he is quite considerably slower. So Ilbrink, I think if anything, Ilbrink's probably the faster of these 4. He just cannot get past Ellis because Ellis is so quick down the straights.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference there, but shocking to see the lap times for Berryman's right now. Even Berryman's struggling with lap times right now. Brian Lockwood ran 155.9, the fastest lap of the session, and Berryman only ran a 156.7. So whatever setups with this low downforce setup, I have a feeling that probably the way they set up the suspension, it seems like it's not working out for them. Something's wrong with the setup, and it's not giving them the speed that they want.
Absolutely, because Interlagos in race 1, Lockwood with no issues for himself. He was about 15 seconds behind Bayman by the checkered flag. It looks as though halfway through this race, it's going to be about 8 seconds to the advantage of Lockwood. Quite an incredible contrast, and it really does show how they've absolutely nailed the setup of the Racing Network, a very prominent team in this championship, although Lockwood's teammates have been struggling. A couple of them not around today, with Michael Namella, his only teammate out there, of course, with an incident in the early stage, had to take a faster pan. That's how far behind he is, pretty much half a lap off the race lead. He's setting decent lap times. He looks to be about the 7th fastest driver out on circuit at the moment, but of course well out of play. But in a reverse grid for race 2, then Michael Namella could be in a strong position. If anything, Bayman just making up a little bit of time, I think, now. Well, it's 3.5 seconds, basically, so maybe making a little bit of time up down the straight, and then pulls away through the middle of the circuit. O'Connor versus Clement, because Clement made a contact earlier on. I don't think he actually had to come into the pit somehow, despite it being quite a significant incident. And, well, he's still putting good pressure on the XVR driver of Lane O'Connor.
Yeah, I believe Trevor might have gotten his rear ring taken off or something from either it was Will Daniels or Denny Henney. One of the cars that went airborne in that wreck, I think might have hit Trevor on the way back down and caused enough damage to where he had to get a fast repair possible.
Yeah, I think, yeah, so who have taken faster repairs so far? So we've had Namella, we've had Daniels, and we've had Henny. And we've also had Bun and Lavelli into the pits so far. Bun, yeah, a little bit unusual for him to come into the pits now. Is this the end of his day? Has he had a secondary incident, perhaps? Because he was just taking tyres, and yeah, that might just be it for Matt Bun. And this might explain why. As he maybe run wide coming through this penultimate corner and has slid into the wall. No, I am completely wrong. As he's actually lost it at this part of the circuit. Has he somehow reached the wall there? And
Wow.
yes, he has. And wasn't the absolute biggest hit, but well, you can see that car is completely destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's the
Suspension.
end of his day.
Yep. And after having to use the fast repair already, and that suspension's really torn. It looks like Brian Lockwood's already gotten around Steve Lavelli to put him a lap down, and Steve Lavelli being one of those drivers getting caught up in that incident.
Yeah, apparently Lockwood setting near world record times. He clearly has the car absolutely locked in. That's not a pun or anything, but certainly in the groove at the moment. And he's absolutely flying along. So really nothing that the opposition can do. Maybe, of course, we have a reverse grid for race 2 of the evening. Will be equal in length, another 30 minutes. And maybe an opportunity for Bayman to take a race victory. Of course, it's still good for his championship, his Peter Bayman, but if Brian Lockwood can produce more drives like this, he could certainly be a threat to Bayman's championship. As Halliburton starts to mount a little bit more of an attack, it's still 9/10 of a second. He can't quite get within that slipstream range at the moment.
Yeah, no, I'd say the slipstream is probably for the Formula 3s is probably about, I want to say about 6 to 7 tenths of a second. It just varies based on the track, but for this track, I want to say about 6 to 7 tenths of a second is the gap needed.
Well, certainly in the slipstream is Paul Ilpink. It's not helping him at the moment, though, because he just cannot get close enough going into the braking zones, and this is why he just cannot gain down these straights. He is gaining maybe a few hundredths right now, down to 1.5 tenths of a second, and maybe going into turn 5, he might be able to have a lunge. Paul Ilpink, former World Championship driver, I think he is actually a World Championship driver at the moment, qualifying at least for the GTE World Championships. Of course, I'll be on the iRacing Esports Network in a couple of months. So certainly looking forward to that. Some of the absolute best drivers in the world going at it in that car. But Ilbink in this car just cannot get past Kevin S. Jr. Of course, Kevin S. Jr. a podium sitter in the World Championship Grand Prix Series last season at Zandvoort, sorry. It was a great drive on that occasion. He's well, defending valiantly at the moment, but Ilping, he's just got to be super brave, maybe go against his rationale if he's going to pull off this move, because it's going to be a banzai move.
Yeah, it's going to have to be, especially with how you can see how big of the difference is with that low downforce setup as Ellis runs a little wide, but on the long straights, Ellis and Berryman have the advantage, and that's where Halliburton and Ilbrink are having the biggest issues as they get around. I don't know who that was that was off track, but that was the whole big difference. And to see how much of a gap that Kevin Ellis pulled on Paul Ilbrink just for that low downforce setup.
Yeah, and Ilbrink's pretty much faster through all the rest of the circuit, apart from these straights. Oh, really deep on the brakes there as Paul Ilbrink, but to be fair, Kai, superb speed. Managed to take a boat. Oh, and now he's lost it as Ellis. And a hardware failure, seemingly. Well, he was showing off his setup early on, but it has failed him there.
Wow, what a man! I'm glad this is a simulator, not real life.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gotta be
something with the hardware.
because because all of a sudden the car went right, and then just dead left. Because he would have been completely fine going through there. So yeah, something have happened to the hardware system as he has left the session as well after that happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe like a freeze with his screens perhaps, and just locks, or not even his screens, but maybe just with his hardware, force the wheel to the right and then gain back control. But by that time, it was far too late. Does mean that Paul Ilpink is up into 4th position. Of course, for Ellis, if he does turn up for the second race, and hopefully he does, and hopefully those hardware issues aren't fatal for him this evening. But if he does turn up, he won't be eligible for that reverse grid, which will mean he'll be starting pretty much from the back for race 2. As the driver who was leading the championship after the first couple of rounds of the season has really taken a sudden turn since then. In the north of America, still Christian Rose. Actually behind Davey Witzbold now, so Witzbold has made this move. Great battle between these two, and Simpson now joining up on them.
As it looks like Simpson's might have an opportunity at a little bit of a run here. Actually, not. Sorry, that's Christian Rose might have an opportunity at getting around David Whittles, going on the inside for the defense move. So might hold out, but Christian Rose just barely is going to.
Nice move there from Rose. Witzbold tries to come back going into turn 2, but just stays behind. Probably the wise method. Oh, and Simpson's dropped it again. Well, he's already had a full spin. He had a half spin as well, and that's another half spin. And, well, maybe that's ended his chances of finishing ahead of Rose and Witzbold. He was really racing along with was Alex Simpson. Would have probably passed those two with ease and maybe even launched an attack on Nicholas Rasmussen. But now I think he's just subjected to a 8th position. And I did say earlier on how this second corner can be deceivingly difficult. He kind of just lost it on a bump there. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it sounded like a lot of wheel spin as well before. It sounded like the car was already getting loose before he got back on the throttle, and that's what really.
Maybe that lower downforce not helping Simpson because he has lost the rear end now 3 times. And really some doubts about that setup choice. But at the same time, Brown Lockwood might just be in a zone of his own, because he's now 5.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. No one can touch him. He's not quite lapping in the 55s as he was earlier on, but consistent mid-56s, whilst everyone else is in the 57s. Absolute domination so far for the Racing Network driver. Bayman and Halliburton still relatively close, down to 0.7 of a second now. But, well, he needs to kind of get within about half a second if he's going to mount an attack. Ilpink losing a little bit of time to these guys, so it doesn't look like he's going to catch by the end of the race. And then 5 seconds back to Rasmussen, another 5 seconds back to Rose, who's having that nice battle with Witzbold. Then another 5 seconds back to Simpson. 8 seconds back to Trevor Clement in 9th, who's done pretty well considering that he had a crash earlier on. Lena Connor is in 10th. Miles Clotesley is in 11th. And then it's Marky Nomella, of course, recovering from that incident earlier on in 12th. And Danny Henney and Josh Andrew rounding out the current runners, with Ellis, Lavelli, Bunn, Daniels, the retirees so far. Of course, just thinking about that reverse grid maybe for race 2, it can pretty much be anything between about 12 and about 25. Of course, yeah, should encompass the majority of the drivers. Like I said earlier on. Oh, and now
Christian Rose coming on the exit of the carousel got loose. Almost collected Davey Whittlebolts there for a second.
Is that just the tyres going away? It was it looked as a little bit of a almost a clumsy, lazy spin, but that was just the rear end giving up grip, seemingly.
I want to say that might have been just the rear tires not wanting to fall off there for a little bit, but yeah, it was interesting to see how slowly he started going.
36 degrees the track temperature, and the lap times have dropped off quite significantly. They're about probably about half a second a lap slower than they were earlier on. So maybe that's the effects of it. Alex Simpson now only 2.5 seconds behind. He might just have a chance at catching this. He's got 8 minutes to do so. That's approximately 5 laps, I believe, because the leaders will force an extra lap for these drivers. So yeah, he's, as long as he can kind of take about half a second a lap out of his rival's margin, he should be able to catch by the end of this race. Halliburton caught Bayman right at the side. In fact, he started ahead of Bayman. Just was overtaken at the race start, and since then he hasn't been able to take back that position. Do you think that turbulent air is just costing Halliburton through these corners, that he can't get within about 0.4 of a second, because once he does get within about half a second, he starts picking up some understeer?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Just because, I mean, especially with seeing how Merriman is able to pull away from Halliburton at the on the long straights, and that's where the big difference is. I think if Halliburton can get to a certain point, you can be able to get there. But as soon as Halliburton gets on those straights, and if Berryman gets just that right enough gap, like where he's at right now, throws all of that dirty air, and Halliburton cannot take advantage of it, and that's where you see the straight line speed. I mean, looking at the straight line speed right now, Peter Berryman's going about 5-6 miles an hour quicker than Halliburton on the straights alone.
Yeah, exactly. A big difference. And pretty much it kind of drops down to about half a second coming out of the carousel, and then goes up to about a second going into turn 5. So, you know, it's about half a second through the middle part of the circuit that Halliburton can make up, and then that's all undone down the long straights. And they can't really do anything about that. Maybe some setup changes these drivers may adopt for race 2, because certainly in wheel-to-wheel combat you want that straight line speed, but it seems as though in terms of pure pace, the higher downforce has got the advantage, as Brian Lockwood has certainly shown. So plenty to think about for these drivers between races. And it does kind of show how important the setup is in this car. I don't know if you found it in the official series, Tyler, but if you want to be at the top of the game, you've got to absolutely nail the setup, because as we've seen, Bayman has nailed it for the first few rounds, dominating, and then today, I'm sure he hasn't got any worse as a driver. I'm sure Brian Lockwood hasn't got a whole lot better. It's just that the circuit with their setups has absolutely changed the order.
Yeah, and I can definitely say it's definitely a factor in the official series. Like this week it's at Belle Isle, which Belle Isle is a very tough course, and that one you really don't need downforce. But a lot of other tracks, like especially Road America and Interlagos, there's a few others that'll be a big difference as well. And you can, even though you don't have to use as much fuel as looks like Josh Andrews is coming into the pits, but it does make a big difference though in the official series, even though you have about a little less fuel compared to the rest of the leagues here, where it's a little bit longer racing instead of only having like 10 or so laps to complete a run.
Don't want to raise too many alerts, but Lockwood did just set a 57.6. He lost 1.3 seconds on that last lap.
But yet, when I'm looking at the timing, he went purple in sector 4.
I set a bad sector 6, I think. He lost about 1.5 seconds through sector 6. Oh, and Halliburton's had an issue, and the driver who was destined for a podium was looking even potentially at a second position. He's made a big mistake, and he's dropped down to 4th.
I wonder if he I wonder if the rear's locked up on him. Let's see. Goes in the corner. Nope. Throttle happy. Got on the throttle a little too early there and just looped it around.
May even leave him in the clutches of Nicholas Rasmussen. Only 1.7 seconds between these two, but as long as Halliburton can cool back down those tyres, he should be okay from that attack. Because Rasmussen has been about 0.8 of a second slower than his rival for the race so far. Rose and Simpson closing in on Witterballs again. They've both made their mistakes, but they are closing in on the 6th place driver. Could be quite close between these three by the end of the race. Currently 3.2 seconds separating the three of them, with Simpson on that last lap lapping 1 second faster than the two ahead. Not too many other battles going on. Maybe Closely might just catch up to O'Connor by the end of this race as well. But certainly in comparison to the other races, relatively un-action-packed this one. The drivers haven't made too many mistakes. We've seen a few spins, but thankfully, of course, with the walls quite far away from the circuit at this circuit, not too many casualties. And maybe just the quality of racing improving as well. Compare this to Silverstone race 1, of course. And now we've got Joshua Andrew a long way off. Again, those walls far away from the circuit, so not causing any damage. But compared to Silverstone, we saw so many spins, didn't we, in race 1, where over half the field had a spin. Today, it seems to be a lot better, these drivers getting used to this car.
Yeah, and especially with Silverstone, how they're still iRacing still has the older version of the two. They don't have the new hairpin section that they have, so it's still the old 90s variation. So a lot of the drivers can be able to take those corners very aggressive, but just how the setups are though with the Formula 3s, it still made the cars snap around a lot, especially if you hit like the AstroTurf or if you got on the rumble strips a little too hard, especially for that track.
Of course, next up in the championship, we head to Monza. So I did say earlier on, do we go to Monza? We do. And, well, that's going to be fascinating with the slipstream effect once again. Undoubtedly, all the drivers will be going to a low downforce setup when we head there. Even if, maybe a few high downforce setups around this circuit, but going to be a consensus around there. Should be some fantastic racing as we go on to the final lap of this opening race of the evening. Ryan Lockwood, 4.5 seconds ahead. He's pretty much been in cruise control for the majority of this race. After pulling about 5.5, 6 seconds earlier on. Had a small mistake in the past few laps, but he's still on course for his first race victory of the season. O'Connor, under pressure from Clotesley. This might be Clotesley's best chance going into turn 1, but I think he's just a little bit too far behind. Half a second the gap currently. I don't think Simpson's going to quite catch up to Witterballs and Rosa either. The three of them now separated by 2.2 seconds. But Simpson, I don't think has quite got enough. Only was 0.2 faster on that last lap as Clotesley goes to the inside into turn 1. Not quite confident enough on the brakes.
Good opportunity. He might have an opportunity coming in. If he can keep that gap close, he might have an opportunity to make a lunge over in the long.
Yeah, really closed in a lot down that pit straight, and so the signs are good. Instant fires. Christian Rose has an instant. Had a spin at the carousel earlier on, and that one has cost him a position to Alex Simpson. And well, it's similar to what Halliburton did. Oh no, it's not. Sorry, it's similar to what Simpson did then.
Coming through the corner, a little bit on the rumble strip. Yeah, just got on the power too early. Big hit on that right-hand side.
Oh, Brian Lockwood, by the way, just coming to the line now to take the checker flag for the Racing Network. So Brian Lockwood, absolute domination there. Clearly got the setup working, clearly got himself working, because he did not put a foot wrong there. and he deservedly takes his first race victory of the season. Bayman in second. Ilbink will be third. Rose is dropping down the order once again. I think he may have had another spin. He's just dropped a few positions.
He's got some significant damage from the impact into the wall. He's just trying to finish at any means possible. It looks like there goes Marco Numella.
Oh, it's really close though between O'Connor and Clotesley. About a tenth of a second between the two of them coming up to the line. Clotesley was within about a tenth of a second, but just dropped back. Is he going to have the run to the line? Trying to break the draft here is O'Connor. It's going to be really close between the two of them. Clotesley's got a straight line advantage. Where is the line?
Oh, jeez!
That was Witterbowls just dropping down the order.
I think Witterbowls might have ran out of fuel. Because there goes...
he's made it.
Wow. He almost got passed by Marco Numella. Wow. That got interesting quick. Oh! Yeah, it's gonna hurt. Christian's just getting in the pit road so he can just be able to cross the line. He's still got another 15 seconds to beat Denny, and there goes Denny for 12th. So Christian Rose drops to 13th after that whole incident. Man, oh man.
Yeah, quite an action-packed end there. Plenty of instants. And we can now go through the race results. Brian Lockwood with his first race victory of the season, 4.5 seconds ahead of Pete Bowman. Paul Ilbrink was in third position, Mr. Consistent, another podium for him. Kane Halliburton had a spin, drop down into fourth. Nicholas Rasmussen was in fifth. Alex Simpson had two spins. He still finishes in sixth place though. Trevor Clements in seventh. Great result for him. Lenny Collin, good result for him in eighth. So too Miles Clotesley in ninth. David Witterbowls ran out of fuel right on the line. Just about beats Marco Numella though in 11th. Danny Henney was in 12th, and behind that was Rose Andrew. And the retirees were Ellis, Lavelli, Bunn, Daniels, McFadden, and Rayfield. And so, Sam, I think we have the reverse grid for race 2 of the evening.
Yes, we do. The wheel is on your screen right now. Let's spin it. Also, if you are seeing some drop frames on the stream, I apologize, but it seems like we are again having some issues with the server. Hopefully it will sort itself out. But for the reverse, we get the maximum of 22.
22. So I think Josh Andrew will be eligible for that one because he was only one lap down.
Yes.
So it'll be a reverse grid of 14. Josh Andrew will be on pole position with Christian Rose on second position. That could be a very competitive start for him. We'll be back with the World F3 Championship in about 20 minutes time for race 2 of the evening at Road America.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
coming for a splash. Three, two, one, now. All clear. Punch it. Great job. You did really well.
This worked well for spheres but was too specialised to adapt to our shapes. So for the new system, we've built new high-resolution meshes for each track. This is more efficient and gives us a lot more flexibility for the car shapes. The new mesh incorporates all the track features our guys worked so hard to replicate. Things like curb geometry and changes in the surface material are all baked into the mesh. We've also taken our laser scan data and applied that to the mesh. And since the mesh is so high resolution, we capture all the detail that's necessary so that the tracks are just like the real thing. With our new mesh, we can now represent cars using smooth, convex hulls, which grouped together form the chassis, the bodywork, and all the other parts of the car. The new shapes are a much closer fit to the shape of the real car. During impacts, the shapes can deform according to the damage, and eventually they can break off as separate objects. All the parts, like wings, hoods, and wheels, can also hang from their joints, flapping and vibrating until they eventually snap off. All these changes are going to add a whole new level of realism to our races. If you want to find out more, please visit iracing.com and check out my blog post for lots more details.
Hi, my name is Greg Hill. I'm the Vice President of Art and Production here at iRacing. This damage project that we've been discussing is certainly a project that involved all hands on deck to pull off. We've got a rather sizable number of cars in our portfolio, and not all of these cars have been built with this dynamic damage system in mind. So what we had to do is one by one go through our race cars, and we had a team of 3 artists, a highly technical modeler, our technical art director, and our associate art director. All took on each car one at a time, and the work involved was researching that car, researching what would happen to that car if it were in a crash, depending on the forces involved in the crash, how severely it would be damaged, what parts might come off, what those pieces might look like when they're removed, what it would look like where the car has areas exposed that were previously covered by bodywork. So they had to do a lot of modeling to each race car, and they had to do a lot of work to essentially set up how the car would react to forces. So essentially setting the strength of the materials. What kind of force would it take to rip off the side pod, for example? Or under what circumstances would this nose cone get ripped off of a car? Or under which would it remain, but just be badly damaged? But all said, it's been a lot of work, but seeing the car models interact with the physics system and the new crash dynamics is really exciting and really cool to see, and definitely makes all that hard work worth it.
Hi, my name is Jose Diaz. I'm a visual effects artist at iRacing. I specialize in particle effects ranging from fireworks to water fountains, debris, crash, impacts, all in the service of improving the driving experience. So you have the main sort of new damage model that Richard's been working on. So that takes into consideration all the mounts and the chassis from the cars and which materials they are. And he's making all the calculations that tell you like, okay, it got hit from this one side and the strength of that impact is this certain amount of values. If you hit something, that means that this mount gets off, something breaks. This gets added on top of that to sort of complement what is happening there with things that you would see in real life when a car crashes. So typically in a car crash, you will see all these little particles of dust, metal, scratches that will take all that force and momentum and kind of explode in a way. And it's all being driven by how fast the car was coming, how hard the impact was against what. That will give you that sense of like, man, that person really crashed hard, or oh, it was just a small bump.
Hi, my name is Chris Lurch. I'm one of the vehicle dynamicists here at iRacing. Our role in the collision project is to tune the collision properties of each and every car to ensure that they behave in wrecks as a real car would. And we've spent quite a bit of time going through literature from the automotive industry on the subject to make sure that we have panels that deform the way they're supposed to, both temporarily and permanently, that pieces that don't deform but rather just break at appropriate times in appropriate ways. The cars are absorbing energy the way they should and aren't sort of bouncing off the walls in crazy ways. The major properties that we look at are stiffnesses, which is how much a piece of the car deforms when a load is applied to it. And then we look at a couple of limits. One is the force limit beyond which the piece deforms permanently. And then the second limit that we look at is the brake limit, the force limit beyond which the piece will simply break. And then we also will look at damping, which is how much the piece absorbs energy.
Welcome back to the World F3 Championship live on Apex Racing TV. Once again, I'm Sam Fitzpatrick, and back alongside me is Tyler Vickery with Sam Kumo on the cameras. And race one, Tyler, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be blunt, it wasn't the most action-packed and entertaining race of all time. Got a fantastic field of drivers though, with the 14-car reverse that we got from race one. It's really mixed up the grid, and whilst we did see a dominant performance in race one by Brian Lockwood, apologies, of course it was Lockwood, absolutely dominating. He is starting in 14th position. It's not going to be easy for him to make that 2 out of 2.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting because, I mean, especially with Berryman's going to be in front of him, but then we've got a whole other host of drivers. Kevin Ellis is going to be further up the field, as well as Alex Simpson, and even, hopefully, with some better luck, Christian Rose. And Christian Rose is running some decent lap times earlier, so Christian Rose just having that unfortunate luck there near the end. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays.
Could be a blessing in disguise, that. Alex Simpson did gain a couple of positions right at the end of that race. I wonder if that will come back to bite him, because he'll be starting a little bit further down the order, whereas maybe he would have been a dark horse if it weren't for that. Race 2, of course. Just as important as race 1, I believe it's the same amount of points, same amount of time as well, but not the same type of grid, because on pole position for race 2 is Joshua Anju. He was 1 lap down, but is eligible for the reverse grid. Christian Rose starts in 2nd place with Danny Henny in 3rd. Marco Nomella could be a very strong choice in 4th. Davey Witzpols was strong in race 1 in 5th. Then it's Miles Clotesley, Lane O'Connor, Trevor Clements, Alex Simpson, the top of the Apex drivers, Nicholas Rasmussen, Kane Halliburton had a spin, but he was still very strong in race 1. Paul Ilbink, Mr. Consistent in 12th. Pete Bayman and Brian Lockwood, of course, race 1 winner. Kevin S. Jr. starts just behind them. Of course, he rage quit apparently in race 1, and well, he will be starting quite far down behind. That is Lavelli, Bunn, and Daniels. All the drivers are on the grid now, and race 2 at Road America can begin. Josh Andrew from the pole position, and away we go. And it's a really good start there from Andrew. He's being able to pull away from Rose. Henny is going to be challenging going into turn 1. Maybe a little bit of wheel spin just in the background, but seems quite calm going into turn 1. Is there going to be any contact? Maybe a little bit of back and front contact, but to be fair, it seems to be okay. Heading down into turn 2. Now a little bit of side by side, not too many position changes, just losing out there. Oh, and actually the top 2 have taken each other out, I believe. It's Josh Andrew and Christian Rose.
Yeah, and Christian Rose immediately toes. Christian is, I can definitely safe to say he is not happy.
Quite incredible. I was just saying how clean it was, and then the top 2 out of the race. We'll go back to that replay, but for now, it's all going on here. This is crucial corners. They're all trying to shuffle themselves into a position. Davey Whitball's just about pulling ahead of Miles Clately in a 3rd and 4th positions. A little bit of contact there, not quite. Up 5 positions, Nicholas Rasmussen up into 6th. He's had a fantastic start. Kane Halliburton up 3 positions. Bayman just a little bit behind. And Halliburton, in fact, it's that Halliburton dropping down the order ever so slightly, and off the circuit goes Matt Bunn.
Yeah, we got three wide going in the carousel as well. 2 of the Apex drivers, Kevin Ellis and Peter Berryman, alongside with Paul Lindbergh.
And Lockwood will try to follow through as well. He's had a little bit of an uninspired start, let's say, as we go side by side between Henny and Namella. Namella looking for his first win of the season. He could have won maybe at race 2 in Spa. He's trying to amend that at race 2 at Road America, but he hasn't been able to make the move. Henny still leading the way, and now Whitballs is just behind it. We've got 2 cars out. It's Lockwood, race 1 winner, and he is towed back to the pits.
And looks like as well Matt Bunn was involved. See what happened here. Oh, why do I have a feeling Bunn missed the braking point and ran over? Oh no, yeah he did. Oh, big hit. Wow.
I think that was Paul Ilbrink, I think, maybe just avoiding that one. Very fortunate as we get side by side. Namella around the outside through turn 1. Now Whitterballs is going to try to get involved in this one. It's all coming alive in race 2 here at Road America. Round the outside again goes Namella, and now it's Whitterballs. He's going to get boxed in though, unless he can somehow find a way through the middle. Is there a way on the left? No, there isn't. And he's just going to have to lift out of the throttle. Are we going to be able to go 3 wide? The track's just too narrow. Whitterballs looking every which way. He's got to make sure he doesn't outbrake himself. Really late on the brakes is Henny. Whitterballs is wide as well, and Namella does take the lead. Rasmussen only just behind Whitterballs as it stands. As you see, this whole train of cars, pretty much the top 7 cars all in a queue.
Yep, and Alex Simpson's up to 5th right now, and Peter Berryman and Kellen Ellis are up 5th and 4th and 5th respectively, trying to look out.
Whitterballs, who was fighting for the lead, and he's made a spin, and that's dropped down Clotesley as well. So Clotesley has now been overtaken by Simpson.
And Simpson now taking advantage of it. Top 7 are all gain spots from all the unfortunate incidents earlier. We're looking now at Kevin Ellis is either trying to see about getting around his teammate or not. Trying to work together to see if they can catch up to Alex Simpson with the rest of the field.
Oh, Simpson's got past Henny. Henny with a mistake.
Oh boy, and it was a big mistake by Henny too. He's now going 2 by 2 in the last sector of the track. Oh, he's gonna get passed around by Miles Scalezzi getting around as well.
They're ever so close this entire pack. It's allowed Namella and Simpson to pull away. This is big now for Henny and Clotesley, and most importantly Rasmussen as well. He's got a little bit boxed in himself, but maybe he'll be able to go around the outside. Rasmussen, he may have just been gifted this position, but he cannot quite get the pair of them. He gets one of them though, just behind. We've got Bayman and Ellis trying to make their way through the field as well, with Clement and Ilbrink as well involved. Round the outside goes Bayman, gets a poor exit, and he might be susceptible to an attack from his teammate. Now who's going to get the situation? It's going to be Bayman, and he just about pulls ahead again, does Peter Bayman. These two are going to try to work together. They've been talking up the team game a lot, and to be fair to S Jr., he's just lifting out of that one. He realised that Bayman might be able to make the move, and he will try to follow through his teammate as well, but Bayman losing crucial tensor.
Yeah, there's just too many cars in one spot of the track, and it's really difficult for Berryman or Ellis right now to get around it. Alex, right now, the only hope is that Alex can be able to catch up to Marco Novella, because it looks like right now, until Berryman and Ellis can get around these next 4 cars, it's going to be a really tough battle for these.
Well, Halliburton was able to put up a good fight against Bayman in race 1, but he seems quite a bit slow at the moment. But now Halliburton trying to jump on a mistake from Clotesley.
Oh, this is going to end badly.
This could be very dangerous. Clotesley offline, but he keeps the rear in check. Bayman slides his way through there, and now he's a little bit boxed in, is Peter Bayman. He can't go to the inside of Halliburton. Maybe he will now. Halliburton gives him space. Really right Halliburton, Bayman just about his way through, and we got a massive crash. Clotesley round and 2 drivers on their roof. That is O'Connor and Ilbrink.
Wow. It looked like it started from Berryman sliding there, but it looked like another driver. I believe that was I don't know who it was now, but someone else got loose. Oh wow! So it was actually just Coletti losing it all by himself, because when we were on the onboard of Peter Berryman. Berryman slid. I thought one of those cars got tangled up, but it was just Coletti losing it around, and then just Josh Andrews and Paul Ilbrink just absolutely just gets launched.
It was Danny Henney initially kind of causing a bit of a concertina, effectively contributed to that one, as Halliburton and Bayman go side by side. This is big, because if Bayman can get this one done, it'll be difficult to overtake, and so too will Ellis. And he does make that move as well, does Ellis, so that's big for the Apex Racing UK drivers. They are able to get ahead of Kane Halliburton, who could have been very much a thorn in their side. Next up for them is Nicholas Rasmussen, who's not going to be an easy customer, but these guys are now 8 seconds off the race lead, because Nomella and Simpson as well have been able to sprint away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, you can see the lap times right now. Marco Nomella and Alex Simpson 158, and then Nicholas Rasmussen and the rest of the field with Peter Berryman and Kevin Ellis having to fight their way through it right now, running 2-minute lap times. So keep an eye on these two. Once Berryman and Ellis get around Nicholas Rasmussen, whenever they get that opportunity, look out. They are going to be flying.
Yeah, they're going to be charging down that gap as Bayman then going ahead of Rasmussen there. So that was, and Clement off the circuit. And a good race 1, but just dropping a few positions there.
Yeah, and then that pass by Peter Berryman, that was an aggressive move. Here goes Kevin Ellis with his aggressive move as well. They know they got to make a move now and get going. As Kevin Ellis is trying to get the draft slipstream as he can, but he's going to have to cut off the Halliburton there. Now gives to Kevin Ellis another opportunity to jump on the outside, try to get that draft off of Peter Berryman heading into turn 1.
Halliburton with the perfect seats in the house.
Berryman makes that pass cleanly as well.
Halliburton not wanting to make the move going into turn 2, because he knows they'll destroy their straight line speed. He wants to stay in the slipstream of Ellis. And now we'll get into the slipstream of Rasmussen. But Halliburton really does seem to be struggling down the straight, so you can see him just not gaining anything down here. Partly due to Rasmussen having the slipstream from the car ahead as he goes to the outside, does the Danish driver. And tries to get the cutback, and Halliburton fights in that. He's got the inside for turn 6, but no, backs out of it wisely.
Yeah, Halliburton just had no opportunity with how Rasmussen's just struggling with the car right now. There was a few times Rasmussen should have easily looped it around.
And he's still staying in this one. He's just off the back of these drivers. Halliburton, to credit to him, he's not Rasmussen not giving up. He was ahead of these drivers, but since he's been overtaken, he's been easily staying in their slipstream. We'll keep an eye on their lap times. Here comes Halliburton on Rasmussen. As he's going to be able to make this move, is he? Down the inside goes Kane. And nice job on the driver, currently sitting in 3rd in the standings in the PSR Radical. So, I think 1/3 into this race, it's somewhat calmed down a bit. Baron Lockwood, good to see him back out on the circuit after taking that fast pair. On that last lap, Lockwood was 1.2 seconds faster than the race leader. He's quick. He's not going to be quick enough to catch up to the race leaders. Should catch up to Miles Clotesley by the end of this race, but that'll be as good as it gets. But out in the lead, Marco Namella, 2.5 seconds ahead of Alex Simpson, who's 4 seconds ahead of his teammate Peter Bayman. Another 2 seconds back to his teammate Kevin Ness Jr. And then 6/10 back to Halliburton, 6/10 back to Rasmussen, another 6/10 back to Henny, and then about half a second back to Witter Bowles.
Yeah, looking at the lap times right now, Simpson and Berryman are on flyers. Simpson runs a 1:57.9, Perryman runs a 1:57.7. Kevin Ellis is pretty much playing the blocker right now. He's ran a 1:58.7, but he's still pulling away a little bit from Halliburton and Rasmussen. So team strategy right now is working well for Apex. Now the question is, are they going to have enough time to be able to catch up to Marco Numella and make a pass?
Yeah, half a second faster on that last lap, as you were mentioning. So yeah, he's closing in. Is Simpson? Yeah, will it be fast enough? Of course, we were talking about earlier on. Oh.
Okay, I thought someone lost it for a second because I heard some big screeching of tires.
Now, apparently, Namella's network connection just a little bit odd there. Can always mess a little bit with the physics in the sim. But we were talking earlier on about 56s for these drivers, but the reason why they're only in the 57s and they're really complementing 57s is because the track is up to 44 degrees Celsius, which is pretty much as warm as it can get on iRacing. So really difficult conditions for these drivers. They're sliding all over the place and they're doing a remarkably good job currently, considering that it's some 10 degrees warmer than it was in race 1.
Absolutely, and the weather, the temperature of the track's definitely going to make that difference. It seems like the Apex Racing guys, seems like their setups is working much better on a hotter track than it was in the previous rounds. So looked at their advantage right now is still Simpson and Berryman are still running 57s, and Numella's trying to get into the 57s, but it's still a struggle. So keeping an eye on Kane Halliburton, trying to fight with Kevin Ellis to get around Ellis, but Ellis is pretty much playing the blocker right now for Berryman and Simpson.
Yeah, I think Halliburton, from what I've seen at least so far in this race, and I think he's got experience in other leagues as well, he knows that his best chance right now is just stay in the slipstream. Just stay in the slipstream, get dragged along by Ellis, and he might have a chance of catching up to the drivers ahead potentially if he does that. If he tries to overtake him, either he'll fail to overtake him and just lose a load of time, or he'll overtake him and Ellis will come straight back at him because Ellis is shown to be faster than so far in this race. So Halliburton, I think, with some good tactics currently, they are dragging themselves closer slightly to the race leader. But I think, yeah, and pulling away crucially from Rasmussen and Cape behind. Oh, and all over the place now is Ellis, and he's straight across the circuit. Now, this is a little bit difficult for Halliburton. Does he go for the move now? As Ellis loses the two of them a lot of time.
Yeah, big whoa boy, is Ellis had a big slide coming out of the last corner, doing everything he can trying to keep Kane from getting any kind of draft at all. Ellis is also trying to clean off the tires real quick as well, and he's got the opportunity. It might give Halliburton an opportunity to pass as well.
He was frustrated in race 1 with this Formula 3 car, was Ellis. And he's really frustrated out there right now as well. Halliburton now only 0.3 of a second behind him, with Rasmussen closing in. Halliburton go for the move this time. Could go for a lunge, but no, once again, saying that it's probably best just to stay in the slipstream. As actually, I think Ellis, is he defending? Not quite sure.
Yeah, he's defending a lot. He's weaving around the track a lot, trying to make the car as wide as possible. It's working right now, but it's at the same time it's been really difficult because Kane can make if Kane makes one lunge, it might end up benefactoring Kane. As there goes Kane looking on the inside, but he checks up again. He's got to commit to a pass. If Kane wants to be able to get around Ellis, he's got to make the commitment and make it stick.
Yeah, I think it is now in his best interest probably to make this move because Ellis is looking very erratic, but he is defending into absolutely every single corner. You expect this into Canada corner. Halliburton just lifting out of that one before they reach the braking zone, or maybe getting in the rev limiter. They're now 4 seconds behind Pete's Bayman.
Berryman last lap of 157.4, so Berryman's on the pedal, trying to catch up as possible. He's right now Alex ran a 158.5, so it looks like Simpson had a little bit of a struggle, but Berryman right now 157.5, half a second quicker than Marco Numella, and they're trying to gain on him. He's about 5 seconds behind Numella, so there's still an opportunity for Berryman to try to beat Numella for the win. That Simpson's trying to do everything he can as well, but it seems like Berryman's got the quicker pace right now.
Yeah, I'm sure if Bayman catches up to Simpson, Simpson will be oh, we've got a spinner just in the background. Witter Bowles, who had an off earlier on at turn 9, and he's had another off seemingly on the exit of turn 2.
Just looked like he turned the wheel a little bit. Well, there he goes. We're coming around. Comes into turn 2. Gets on the... Yeah, just the car got unsettled, hit the little rumble strip on the inside there. You could see the rear just pop up just a little bit, but it was enough to really unsettle the car, and the car goes right around as if it was on a spinning top.
Yeah, it's lost him a few positions there, down into 10th. Got 47 seconds though, back to Miles Clately, so that's not going to be too much of an issue for him. 4 seconds though behind Steve Lavelli now. As Halliburton, has he got Ellis this time? Ellis has been defending all over the place, really not happy with the car. And as Halliburton swoops round the inside of him, but he's gone deep. And after all that hard work, Ellis takes back the position, and this just helps Nicholas Rasmussen once again.
One time Kane had an opportunity, but yeah, he's starting to overdrive it a little. Whoa, Ellis is off track. Hang on to it.
He's lost it. He's going to go back onto the circuit as well.
Oh, man.
Fortunately, Ellis immediately disconnected, so there was no worry for other drivers. He was already out of shape here and really just fed up out there is Kevin Ellis, the former championship leader, where he's going to be far from the championship lead after today. And yeah, just got onto the grass, really bumpy out there. Tried to enter the circuit cleanly, but on the power, lost it, and that was the end of Kevin Ellis's day. Of course, we've been waiting for that elusive Apex Racing UK 1-2-3 lockout. It's as though it's not going to happen once again today. Well, certainly not going to happen anymore. As certainly their dominance in this series being upset by the Racing Network. Of course, it was Brian Lockwood winning race 1. It looks as though the Racing Network might get both race victories, with Marco Nomella still leading the way. 2.5 seconds ahead of Alex Simpson. Simpson was closing the gap by upwards of about half a second a lap earlier on, but it's pretty much been level in these past few laps, maintaining at that gap, and as long as Namela doesn't make a mistake, he should be on course for his first race victory of the season as Simpson, oh dear, was going to be a fantastic result for him, but was just pushing too hard.
Oh, why do I have a feeling he just went off just a little bit and the car got unsettled? Just a little wide, yep. Oh, man.
I'm sure
Yeah,
Alex will
goes
come
into pit.
for a chat with us later on to just explain that incident. Such a shame, because it looked as though he was well on course for second position, and probably second position in the championship as well, which he would have certainly appreciated. Not anymore. He'll take that faster pair. They might still be quick at the end of this race, but it's such a long pit lane around here that you lose an immense amount of time. I don't think there is a longer pit lane in the world.
Yeah, I believe so. Ooh, is there someone else? I heard someone else loop it around. Brian Lockwood again, it looks like, because I see him stationary on the... Oh boy, and he's got massive damage on the front end.
Oh, maybe Brian has got fed up here. No, it's an honest mistake. And was he a bit offline there?
It didn't look like he was offline. I want to say this, maybe the rear end started to go away on him, because it looked like from the way you could, from that camera angle we had, it looked like the back end was starting to step out on him, and he went to react to try to catch it, and then it just snapped back, and he had nowhere to go but the wall. Boy, that really unfortunate luck there for Brian Lockwood.
Well, anyone who saw race 1, we saw a lot of incidents at the end of the race. We kind of assumed that was the tyres degrading a bit. Maybe that's got something to it, as you said, Tyler, the just rear end giving up on him. And yeah, maybe we are going to see more instances like that in the closing stage. Of course, like I said earlier on, mid 40-degree track temperatures at yes, Celsius, of course. That's what, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, I guess, or maybe 100,
Yeah,
110, I guess.
Maybe yeah, I'm gonna look for Fahrenheit. Yeah, 112 degrees Fahrenheit for track temp. Yeah, so it's a very hot track temp. The ambient air temperature in Fahrenheit's around 85, 86 degrees. So still a very warm racetrack series. So definitely taken into effect of a lot of these cars.
Yeah, definitely. So Bayman, he is faster. Only about 0.3 of a second a lap faster though. It doesn't look like he's going to catch Marco Namella by the end of this race. 4 seconds to catch. He's got 3-4 laps to go, I think, after this one. So he's going to be pretty close. Might get within about 2 seconds, but as long as Namella doesn't make a mistake, he should be fine. Halliburton, 1.6 seconds ahead of Rasmussen. That gap is maintaining at the main event. Halliburton pulling away. Clements is trying to catch up to Henny once again. On that last lap, he was 0.3 faster than Danny. Texen's Pitstone Motorsport trying to catch up to the Privateer. And a nice run through the carousel. Now within a second is Trevor.
Yeah, so right now 8 points. Yeah, 0.8 of a second is the gap right now between Clement and Henny. It looks like he might have an opportunity, if he's able to run some clean laps, he might have an opportunity to catch up to Denny Henny by the end of this race. He's got about 6 minutes remaining to go in there.
Or Henny with a bit of a mistake there, or some kind of issue, and Clement is all over the back of him now. Into the slipstream he goes, and he's rapidly closing the gap to his rival. Will he go to the outside? Will he go to the inside? Inside is covered off. He'll try to use that overspeed. We've seen the outside line work plenty of times. Trevor Clement round the outside here at turn 1. And that's a very nice move in the end from the Fitzpatrick Motorsport driver. Can he pull this one off though? Still on the outside. And, well, to be fair to Danny Henny there, responding superbly. These two have been in the wars so far in this race, particularly down at Canada Corner, having their respective issues. But for now, Henny just pulling ahead, once again covering the inside. Clement will have to do it the hard way, unless he tries to get the cut back. But to give credit to Henny, a fantastic exit. And, well, that's what he's got to do now for the next 5 minutes.
Absolutely, and looks like he's able to hold them off right now, but it's pretty much going to be the closest battle for the rest of the race. Everyone else is either 2 seconds or more apart from each other. So a good fight for top 5, and Trevor Clement's going to be probably doing everything he can to try to keep up with Denny as much as possible.
Yeah, and this would be a really nice result for either of these two. I think it would be their best result of the season. So they would certainly appreciate this, and of course helping their, at least Clement is certainly helping his team. As he goes to the outside, almost contact between the two of them. A pretty late move there. Henny doing well once again to cover the inside line. But is he a little bit deep on the brakes? No, he's got it stopped well. But so close is Clement going to be down the straight.
Yeah, I was going to say Clement had a better run through there as well, as he's a lot closer than before. So he might have an opportunity. Oh, great run by Trevor. Should be getting the draft here as well. And going to be interesting here. Danny's looking on the inside. Trevor's going to have to try to work his way on the outside to see if he can be able to pull off this move, and it might just work.
They're dead level at the moment. Just pulling back ahead there was Henny. And oh no, Clement is off the circuit.
I think he might have a slowdown as well.
Wouldn't be, yeah, he does. So he's going to have to do all that hard work again. He should be able to catch him by the end of the race, although he's only got a couple of laps to go after this one. Once again, that rear end just giving up, this time on corner entry. Over-rotating the car. But you can see he's only 1.25 seconds behind. If you can really get on it, Trevor, he should be able to catch by the end. Out in the lead, Michael Nomella, 7/10 of a second clear of Peter Bayman. He's apologies, he was 7/10 slower than Bayman, that was my point. But he's 2.8 seconds ahead of Bayman, crucially. And, well, like I said before, it might go down below 2 seconds. But with 2 laps to go, it's all looking good for Marco Nomella. Got to try to keep his nerves though. I don't know about your experience in this situation, Tyler, but do you try to maybe keep your intensity as high as possible, keep on going for those lap times, or do you tend to maybe back off a little bit and just protect what you've got?
I'd more back off and protect what you got. Wait and see what second place is doing, especially Berryman. You've got 2 minutes right now exactly left, so you know you're gonna have at least, depending on, you got about 1 more lap. So you gotta be a little bit patient here, because Berryman still has to push. And honestly, if Marco just pulls off a little bit and tries to save the tire a little bit, he might have an opportunity to give Berryman a fight. Because if Berryman catches up to Marco, Berryman's gonna give everything he's got, and Marco's gonna have to try to defend with whatever he has left.
Yeah, he does not want that gap to fall below a couple of seconds, because yeah, might just give Bayman half an opportunity. He doesn't want to have to really push hard in that closing lap. We've got 1.5 laps to go in this race now. Also, we'll thank everyone for tuning into this race, and hopefully you've enjoyed the show. We certainly have, and of course looking forward to the rest of this season. We're only about a third of the way through the season, and so we've got plenty more fantastic racing in the World F3 Championship, of course also the World GT Championship every Monday. So certainly tune in for that one. And also thanks for helping our subscriber count go above 6,500 subscribers. Certainly very much achieved. Could we get to 8,000 subscribers by the end of the year? Not quite sure. It's going to be marginal. But thanks for your continuing support. As Trevor Clement, he's made that mistake. Now back within about 0.3 of a second. And, well, he's was unable to make the move earlier on due to that slightly high damper. So I must say, Denny Henny's livery, at least the one that I've got loaded up, is absolutely superb. A Red Bull livery, the kind of alternative livery that they released a few weeks ago. I think it's inspired by that, and it does look superb on that F3 car. As Clement closes, looks to the inside. Oh, he blocks off late and goes into the wall, does Danny Henny. Well, it was a late move, I would say, Tyler. And so just about avoids these two cars as well. It was a late move from Henny to block, and in the end, that contact was inevitable.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Here he goes. We're looking at the replay now. Here goes Trevor looking on the inside and just, wow, big hit.
Maybe a bit of netcode involved as well. And, well, Henny should finish this race at least. Might lose out to Simpson. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. Across the line will be close between those two drivers. But out in the lead, Mark and Miller. The gap has gone down below 2 seconds. It's 1.7 seconds. It was up at about 8 seconds earlier on because Namur started in 4th place, Bayman 13th. But crucially, it looks as though it's going to be enough for Marco Namella. The Racing Network driver, after his teammate took the race 1 victory, he is going to be able to take the race 2. As he rounds the final corner at Road America, Marco Namella takes his first race win of the season in the World F3 Championship. He fends off Peter Bayman to the line. And a fantastic day in the end for the Racing Network. They only got to, only had 2 drivers, and whilst in the first race it was Namella having a retirement, in the second race it was Lockwood and Namella finishing out on top. Simpson and Henny are going to be pretty close across the line. It's currently 4.5 seconds. Simpson absolutely rapid, trying to catch up, but Henny should just about have enough. Going to be about 2 seconds across the line, but Danny Henny, after that crash on the final lap, will finish in 8th position. Apart from that, we've just got Clotesley and Ilbrink to cross the line. And then I think I'll pretty much beat everyone out there. But that race 2 was absolutely superb in the end. Of course, all the batsing at the start of the race in particular, Tyler. I think that was where it was decisive. We saw Bayman just lose a little bit of time in the traffic, lost that 8 seconds to the race leader, and that was enough in the end. He just couldn't catch that gap.
Yeah, and just with how that happened, and it all happened with Kane, with Halliburton, Nicholas Rasmussen, a few other drivers that got taken out later on in the race. Berryman and Simpson and Ellis were trying. Actually, more Berryman and Ellis were trying to fight around as much as possible, and getting caught up in a 5-car train ahead of them that were slow, pacing a lot slower than they were. It kind of really hurt their momentum, and it gave Marco Namella and Alex Simpson the opportunity to pull away from them, which ended up with Alex Simpson making a big critical mistake and losing out on second. So good opportunity there for Marco, taking advantage of it, and was able to pull away with an easy win.
Yeah, could Simpson, of course, up? Maybe not. Hopefully he'll be able to amend that mistake next time at Monza, of course, in 1 week's time. But for now, we can go through the final results here at Road America. Marco Namella ends up on top, his first race victory of the season, 1.5 seconds ahead of Peter Bateman. Kane Halliburton was in third, good result for him. Nicholas Rasmussen in fourth. Trevor Clements finished in fifth place, that's his best result of the season. I believe that's Steve Lebel's best result of the season as well, in 6th up 10 positions. Davey Witzfoles was in 7th with Danny Henney in 8th. Alex Simpson, of course, had that crash as Tyler was talking about in 9th. Miles Clotesley was in 10th. Paul Ilbrink finishes in 11th, and then the retirees, and there were a few of them: Lockwood, Ellis, O'Connor, Daniels, Andrew, Bunn, and Christian Rose as well. Of course, Rose in that incident on the very first lap going through turn 2. It looks as though everyone was unscathed through those first few corners. It was him who got caught up with the 2 race leaders making contacts, and well, of course, from that point onwards, there was no chance of him recovering. Do have a few interviews, fortunately, and I think it would be unjust not to give an interview to our race 1 winner, Brian Lockwood. And Brian, in only your second only your second meeting in this race, you were incredibly good in that race 1. That was utter domination.
Yeah, we came with a really good car this week, and I think it showed. We just felt really good going into the race, and I managed to put the car on the pole. Kept Peter behind me through the first couple turns, and after that it was just a matter of cruising, maintaining my lead.
Yeah, and how did you keep your concentration levels high? It must have been easy for your mind to kind of wander in that situation, because you were in such a groove, just setting such consistent times.
Well, it was. The first half of the race I was definitely pushing. I would say until about lap 10. I was just making sure the gap kept growing and growing. Once I had about a 5-second lead, I kind of let my focus lapse, which got a bit dangerous at a couple points. My pace definitely wasn't the same as it was at first, and I almost had a run-in with a lap car toward the end. But yeah, I mean, I knew all I had to do to win the race was finish the race, so that's what I did.
Absolutely, and we're just seeing a replay of your race 2 start. It was pretty chaotic. I don't know how much experience you've got of kind of leagues like this, where the fast drivers can sometimes start from the back of the grid, but it's so clustered out there, and with such a narrow circuit as well, was a big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, I've used to I still race in the 2K World Cup for the Skip Barber, which used to do some double-header races where the leaders would start toward the back or mid-pack, and that was always one of my strengths, so I wasn't too worried about that coming into this race. It was really hectic, and unfortunately I just got caught out under braking for Canada corner. You know, it happens, especially in messy starts like this. I wasn't the only person who had trouble. I think Paul ended up getting wrecked out too. So I think there are a lot more positives than negatives to take away from this event. And you know, well, we're really glad, really excited that we beat Apex. We know, you know, they weren't on their best foot today, so looking forward to racing them next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you pretty much beat them fair and square out there. Certainly the better team, of course, locking out both race victories. Before we let you go, Brian, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, thanks to everyone at the Racing Network and Racecraft Engineering. Big shout out to, of course, Marco for working as hard as he does on the sit-ups, and Kane, who had his debut today, did pretty well. I think a 3rd and a 4th in the end. So yeah, just always a pleasure to work with those guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brian, and we will see you at Monza.
See you then. Thanks, Sam.
Okie doke. Next up, we'll have an interview with Brian's teammate, Marco Namella. Of course, our race 2 victor. Marco, you must be delighted with that one. You were so close to winning at Spa. You must be delighted finally getting that first win under your belt.
Yeah, it's nice. It was a pretty easy race still. Like, I knew the guys behind were a little bit quicker, but they were not that much quicker. So was easy.
Yeah, definitely. You must have been almost jumping out of your racing seat when you saw the top two crash into each other in those opening few corners, and after that you just had one car to overtake, and from then on it was just clean air.
Yeah, that was a little bit comical. See that crash, but yeah, and then getting past the car in front, it was pretty difficult. They had a lower wing, so couldn't just run past him on straight draft. So yeah, but yeah, the race was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked like a pretty easy drive for you. Of course, going back to race one, just explain what happened to you with your incident in the opening few laps.
I just ran out of skill. I had too much brake going into the corner, and the rear stepped out. And I thought it was still like something I can fix, but no, it just bite back. So, yeah.
We saw a lot of mistakes with drivers with the oversteer, particularly your teammate losing the car through the kink in race 2. Were you struggling with the rear end of the car, and was it kind of randomly giving up grip for you?
No, I think the conditions were a little bit hot, but I think it's like lack of focus. If you just keep the steering smooth, it should be easy every time.
Absolutely, you certainly showed that in race 2, easing to that race victory, and of course Racing Network with a locking out both race wins today. Before we let you go, Marco, any shout outs you'd like to give?
I have to shout out my brother to getting me in the race. Even I had a MRI earlier, so I got here before the race started. So shout out to my brother, and of course Racing Network and Racecraft Engineering guys. Yeah, thanks, great work.
Thanks, Marco. We'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks.
Next up, we will have a chat with, well, he did very well today actually, Nicholas Rasmussen. And Nicholas, you must be quite pleased with those two results in the end. You're accumulating those points very nicely, a 4th and a 5th today. Yeah, must be quite pleased.
Yeah, it was quite a solid day, to be honest. I didn't think we would have the pace. I struggled a lot in practice yesterday, and like I was just gonna try to survive today, but yeah, we were able to put the car in a good position and have some good races, stay out of too much trouble, and yeah, I think we got some good points today, so that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw you racing a few drivers, particularly the Apex drivers in those opening stages. It must be so difficult to just have wheel-to-wheel combat with them because they were so quick down the straights with their low downforce, and just to stay up down the straights in the slipstream was difficult for you guys.
Well, it's easy to have battles with them because they're very talented drivers, so you can race them very closely. But it's super difficult to keep up. Man, these guys are so quick. So I tried to give them a run for their money, but I knew that we were in a good position to score some decent points. So I also had to weigh the opposite, the positive versus negatives of battling so hard. Didn't want to lose too much time. So at the end, they got ahead, and yeah, we kept it in a decent position after all.
Yeah, it was great to see you accumulate so many points. Are you looking at the points too much? What are kind of your aims for the championship? Are you just looking maybe for a one-off race victory, perhaps, or maybe a certain position in the championship? What are kind of your aims for this series?
I mean, we are trying to become, I wouldn't call it best of the rest, but there's obviously the Apex guys who are super quick. Marco is quick, Kane is quick, and the Radicals online are quick. So if we can race with them, I'll be happy. And I mean, I'm giving it everything I have, obviously, in racing. But my aim is to just be consistent and be consistently there, because we can't beat everyone on raw pace, so we need to beat them on consistency. So that's really my aim in this championship.
Well, you're certainly starting to achieve that this season. I'm sure in the championship you're going to be moving up a few places. You're not going to probably be too far off second place in the championship now, I imagine. So doing very well at the moment. Before we let you go, Nicholas, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I would like to thank Cody Wensing. He spotted for me today. So huge thanks to him. I gotta thank you guys for broadcasting, the sponsors of NHR Esport, Extreme Gameware, and Newman Racing. And yeah, thanks to the organizers for giving us such a great place to race. And yeah, see you next week at Monza. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we certainly are as well. Thanks, Nicholas, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, absolutely, man. See ya.
Got a couple more interviews to go. Next up, we'll have a chat with Davey Witzer-Bowles. And just trying to get in the channel right now. There you go. So, Davey, well done out there. Your first race of the season. You must be quite pleased with that, particularly that race 2, 7th position.
Well, yeah, it was my first race of the weekend, of the season actually. Yeah, it was quite hard because I'm a bit sick. My first race went very well until the last lap when I ran out of fuel. And second race, yeah, 2 spins, that was not so good.
Yeah, just take us back to that race 1 with the fuel. Was it a surprise for you when you started coughing with a couple of corners to go, or were you kind of limiting that fuel usage with a few laps to go?
Well, I saw 2 laps before that I was short on fuel, and I tried to save as much as possible. But yeah, I did not much testing. Yesterday I started to test, and I did not do a full stint, so I was surprised.
Next up, we head to Monza, a big slipstream circuit. I imagine a lot of drivers are going to be using kind of the same downforce trims. What are your thoughts on that one? Is that a circuit that you usually go strong at?
Well, it's a long time I raced. It's almost a year that I was racing on iRacing, so it's my first race. So I don't know what to expect, and I think I will go for the high downforce.
Yeah, just take us through that high downforce, low downforce, because you'd expect around a circuit like this, everyone would go kind of low downforce because of the long straights, but it still seems as though the high downforce has a big advantage.
Well, yeah, the high downforce was for me quicker. Just on the straight, I can speed short. But yeah, it was safer to drive, and then for me it was quicker.
Yeah, you certainly showed that. A couple of very good results today, Davey. Before we let you go, any thanks you'd like to give?
Well, I want to thank you guys for the broadcasting. Also, Giorgio Ponti from Ponti Motorsports for the support that he gave me, and also to Tomo from Sim Racing Bay for setting up my steering wheel the last few days. I had problems with my PC and stuff, and he helped me with the setup of my steering wheel. So, Sim Racing Bay, thank you.
Thanks, Davey. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
Okay, finally, because I know me and Sam will get fired if we don't do this. It's Alex Simpson, and Alex will get the elephant in the room. We'll kick him out. The spin in race 2. You're running great. Were you just pushing a bit too hard, and that error was a result of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, guys. Yeah. Really. I mean, I have to say, I had a warning the previous 2 laps because I overshot the corner. I think the wind might have had a bit of tailwind at that particular point going in there, and I just didn't react to the last couple of laps. I was pushing. I did want to try and catch up. But unfortunately, I also had a little issue with my wheel tonight where it was cutting out and not shifting and things like that. And I definitely missed a shift going in there, and the screen went blank and then come back mid-corner. So wasn't ideal. And yeah, I was offline, and yeah, I was scrambling to try and get the line right and just it up basically.
But it was still positive in terms of pace. You out-qualified Kevin out there, which must have been good. And in that race too, you were certainly keeping up with Marco, closing in on him slightly, you must still be quite pleased with the pace because you seem to have just gone from strength to strength so far this season.
Yeah, I think again, I mean, I'm really not getting an awful lot of time to test, so I have to appreciate the work that the lads do. I mean, I think we did get something quite wrong in terms of the set today. We reacted during the break and kind of fixed it a little bit. I don't think we went the same direction as everybody else. We tried to keep the car a little bit trimmed out, and in the end, that was the wrong decision. But we were still quick. I'm still happy with the progress in the car. I mean, in that final race as well. I mean, more than anything, like I say, the wheel was my biggest problem. I was able to catch Marco, and then I'd lose a half a second down a straight because I'd be sat there and I just couldn't shift up. So all the lights and the LEDs and everything would go off, shifters would stop working, and I just have to wait patiently for the USB to reconnect and then start shifting again. So that was terribly frustrating. I feel like I could have got there, and I think that probably compounded my problems where I was pushing so hard. But yeah, I'm glad we were able to react quickly in the break. We were understanding more what the car's doing, so I think hopefully next week at Monza we'll be on the right trim, but I'm not sure.
Well, we were just talking to Davey, and I was like, oh well, maybe you'll be going for the low downforce, and he replied with, I think I'll go high downforce.
Yeah, well, of course.
Monza?
Yeah, well, when the car obviously came out, that's what everyone was running that. So yeah, I'm not really sure what we're gonna do. I have no doubts. Like, I don't mind giving it away, to be fair. I have no doubts. We'll probably start in the middle, and then we'll just have a little play and see what's what. Because I think we're still trying to understand the car to get the max out of it. So in our head, yeah, there is no way it's a high downforce set around here. But it clearly was. Brian was so fast today on that. Like I say, I can't sort of talk about what the guys did, and I didn't put any effort in to build the setup or anything like that. So, like I say, I don't know if high downforce was tested at all. But yeah, it just seems like everything we know about aero cars, that's our team's forte. We've got to throw it all away because it's just so different, and just try a bit of everything really until we really understand what's going on with the car. So, but yeah, the speed you carry through the corners on the higher downforce or the more wing and stuff like that is just insane. And you're not really losing any time in the straights per se because you're carrying that much more momentum. So, yeah, it's an interesting little concept. What will probably happen is we'll learn it, we'll understand it, and then they'll change it next build.
Yes, I'm sure that will be the case, unfortunately. But yeah, of course, with Monza and Imola and Donington coming up, a few more club circuits, not quite so low, or I say low downforce, high downforce. It seems to be everywhere, but not quite as long straights. Might mix it up a little bit. Before we let you go, Alex, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, well, to you guys again for doing the broadcast, for Matt and the crew at organising the league, obviously Simmortal and Social Proof, Peter and Kevin. Kev had a doozy, bless him, today, but fortunately he can drop that. But yeah, so hopefully he'll bounce back for the next one. And to everyone at Apex Racing, and to our sponsors as well, Bodner, and yeah, SDK Gaming. And I'm forgetting some, JCL, Sim Racing, and there's others. Yeah, it's not a good day today.
Well, we'll see you tomorrow, Alex. You'll be broadcasting the DSR Radicals penultimate rounds. I'll be trying not to throw away the championship.
That's it. Yeah, and we'll have a chat after after the race.
Yes, of course. See you then.
Thanks so very much, guys.
So, that pretty much rounds us off for this evening. And, of course, next week, as we've already talked about Monza, which apparently is high downforce now. I'm not doubting it or anything, but that's just how this car is seemingly. As I'm sure it'll still be fantastic racing. Big slipstream effect, should be super competitive. Today was super competitive. A couple of new race winners for the Racing Network. We'll wait to see if Apex Racing UK and Radicals Online can respond. Of course, as I said previously, tomorrow we've got the BSR Radical League. 2 rounds to go in that crucial round from Sebring, that will be. And then on Saturday, we've got round 4, I think, of the Euro V8 Supercar Series. We've also got a Sebring 90-minute race. Entries still open for that. All the GTE entries are filled. But if you feel like racing in the GT3 or the Daytona prototype in that race, it's a preparation race for Sebring, for the Sebring 12 hours. Certainly do check out our Facebook page, and yeah, you can find details there on the pinned post. And then on Sunday we've got the Apex Racing League's Renault 3.5 Championship. Of course, on Monday we'll have the World GT Championship, Le Mans endurance events. And of course, we'll also have Masters and the Vickery Tech. And of course, next week we'll be back with us on Apex Racing TV with this series once again around Monza. Do we? Ooh, okay. One open then. Be quick to submit your entry, and hopefully see you there. If not on circuit, but viewing the race on our YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook pages. But for now, from me and also from Sam and from Tyler as well, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you next time.